Welcome to the Replenish Me show on YouTube and radio, where we talk to women like our
Mm.
guest today um,
Yay.
to give other women strategies to get from the chaos of wanting to be healthy to the calm of actually doing it. So our health coach today, she has many titles, and she'll tell you more about that in a minute, but I want to welcome to the show Sarah Wood of Sarah Wood Wellness. She's an eating psychologist and so much more. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Excited too. Tell me about how you got started and then how that translated into the community that you founded.
Sure. Yeah, so the whole being in the health world to me at one time was just being fit. So being physically active and making sure you looked a certain way to feel good about yourself. So I didn't know about nutrition. I didn't care. I grew up with severe asthma and allergies. So for me, if anyone were to give me a restriction, I wasn't interested because I'm already living a life I don't really enjoy. I can't breathe at night. I'm always having to have an inhaler everywhere I go. I grew up on steroid medication, and that had its own effect on me. And so that was kind of my story until I was in my mid-20s, which was this is just going to be how it is, because that's what every doctor ever told me. You just will have asthma for the rest of your life because you're born with asthma, you keep asthma, so you need to always be on your regimen, which was a steroid inhaler every day, steroid nose spray. I would go in to get checked up every now and then just because I had been hospitalized for it. So yeah, and then what happened was I had my first kid, Elizabeth, who is 5 years old now. She'll be 6 this year, so it's been about a 6-year transformation. And it felt like it was no longer a choice. I was already looking at breastfeeding, waking up all the time for her, and having to wake up with an asthma attack every night just felt unbearable. And so it was the first time that I opened to the idea of alternative solutions because they had been offered. I just was not hearing it. And so I welcomed it. I went through, worked with my breathing practitioner, which is, we did Buteyko breathing, and I cleaned up a lot of what I ate. I really got serious about figuring out what I was sensitive to. I let it go. It was wonderful. But what happened, and this is why I actually because I was a school administrator at an alternative school and had left that temporarily for my kids. What happened and how I instead decided to go into the health field was I developed a pretty disordered eating behavior. And that came from a lot of fear and anxiety about food. And because I had discovered this is the solution I found, I can't mess this up. So I got to get it perfect, and I gotta really monitor what I eat. And it got to the point where I was so obsessed with it, I wouldn't eat for an entire day, or I would eat a handful of almonds. And to me, it was just I'm trying to be in control of this thing. And my stress levels went up, really, really up. I went back to work full time at that school, and that was that was adding a whole new level of stress. I had stress in my marriage, and then I had my 2 kids by that time. And so, well, no, I had Elizabeth and I was pregnant with Abigail. So that was when I was again facing crap, I'm bringing another kid into the world. This is a problem. I'm supposed to be super healthy now, and now my health is declining again. I'm not eating. I'm anxious all the time. And so that's why I just started looking stuff up. And that's how I found the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. I hooked up with Mark David's work, Emily Rosen, and now I work with them, which has been amazing. And yeah, so that's been kind of the journey. And I went through the certification training, did the certification, studied eating psychology, mind, body, nutrition. And what's happened now is when I work with someone, it's been not really, the goal hasn't necessarily been, let's fix you, let's get you to that like 2.5 pounds you want to lose. We use the struggle we have with food or body, or health as a gateway to what else is calling you in life, because that's what was happening for me. I was living with a lot of stress because I was in a stressful marriage. I was pushing myself to do a job I didn't need to be doing, and trying to also be the perfect mom and have the perfect diet. So perfect was the problem. So that's where my work transitioned, was let's actually find out what's right for your life, for you, and see that as a solution rather than trying to directly fix it as though you have to be fixed.
I love that. So, your answer to fixing all the stress and problems in your life was, I don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that is a stumbling block for women, I think, in general, right?
Mm,
We have to be perfect. We have to be the perfect mom. You said everything, right? And we all have that in the back of our mind. Even I have to catch myself sometimes. I have to be the perfect mom. I have to
mhm.
be the perfect wife. I have to be the perfect, whatever else I'm doing. So that's great. Very good realization. So what else I love about that is that was a gateway for you founding the Empowered Queen community, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I love that name. I want to know about that name first before we get into
Sure.
who you work with.
Yeah, so for me, that came about while I was training and learning from Mark and from Emily. And the archetype of the queen and princess was an example he used for helping his clients understand like their life's journey struggle, from the princess who is more about requiring to affirmations. She's trying to figure herself out. It's what I think of like the teenage years, where it's like, where do I belong? Who am I? What's my purpose? And it can go totally wrong, like because you look for affirmations in all the wrong places, all the wrong relationships, by doing things to your body, starving yourself, following people on social media maybe you shouldn't follow, and all of that is the princess struggle. But the journey is to queenhood, and queenhood is the place where I just have this vision, you're the queen sitting on the throne, and her purpose has changed. She doesn't have the capacity to worry about those things anymore. So she's about purpose and service and love and compassion, and just all the things that really why life was presented to her. Like, here's what you were given, now go use your gifts and do something with them. So for me, that's queenhood. It's also being unapologetic about things that don't require an apology, like apologizing for your body, which is something people actually do. If they take their shirt off at the beach and they don't like what they see, they will actually apologize for other people having to see them. Apologizing for having an opinion that differs from some people. Just different things that where we're taught to be a lot more, or to be nicer and to be a lot more receptive of other people and their expectations. The queenhood in that vision I had was like, you aren't living someone else's story or someone else's expectations. It's standing on your own 2 feet, or sitting, or whatever it is. Not everyone is standing up on their own 2 feet. And but just feeling grounded in this is who I am, and I'm okay as this person, and I'm excited to see where that goes for me, and unplug from everyone else or culture that tells me I should be anything else.
I love that. So, yeah, being unapologetically you, not apologizing for your purpose, and really feeling into that. Okay,
Mhm.
I like that. A lot of your posts on social media, yeah, even on your personal page, I really like you kind of call people out. It's like, I can't remember, you did one post about how are you going to, I can't even remember now, but basically you say stuff like about food and how you don't have to, beat yourself up for, choosing to eat something that's wrong or things like
Mhm.
that, and, dealing with people's opinions. So I like that. And that has been a little bit of my struggle, kind of stepping out there. So this week, thinking about you, um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, I want to be like this. I want to be at service to women, but I've been struggling with my thighs, right? Talking about body image. And I was like, well, wait a minute. We all struggle with our thighs. Let's talk about that. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw, but I did this whole post about my thighs.
Oh,
And
I haven't seen it yet.
yeah, you have to see it. It's on my personal page. And so I was basically just saying, I understand my thighs. They have
Mm-hmm.
all the fat cells because that's the womanliness of us. That's where it's supposed to be. That's our beauty.
Mm-hmm.
But when we struggle with stress, that's our inflammation too. And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. Just recognize the warning sign that's going on in your body and move forward. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the body image struggles and food struggles that your community deal with?
Oh, yeah. So stomach, it's almost, I would say belly stuff. Belly stuff is big, which I think you'd understand because most of my clients are women who've had children, and it changes things. No matter, even if you have like a smaller frame or a larger frame, your skin changes. Things just, it feels different. And but then there's like this pressure which says, well, you got to get back to your pre-baby body. Like, we'll give you this magic formula for doing it. And when instead the narrative in my mind is better off being, let's celebrate your post-baby experience and this transition that you just went through. And that, what does that mean going forward? How can you, I guess the question always is, how can you always love yourself no matter what? And say, this is me, instead of that experience of, I look in the mirror and I don't recognize that person. And I think that's all attached to a story of like, I was only me when I was 20. I'll work with women in their 40s who are finally letting go of trying to be in their 18-year-old body. Like, your 18-year-old body was then, but let's travel with it. Like, look at what it's been through, look at what you've been through, and let's start living in the story now, and kind of deciding like, what's life going to be like now. So for me, in the group, a lot of it is belly stuff. For me, man, the thigh stuff is interesting because that's where I developed, like, I have stretch marks on the inside of my thighs. And oh man, it used to be, uh, I would like scratch at them. I would pull like anything down, like, no one can see these. And then what I'm appreciating is the best thing I did for myself, and it's one thing I ask clients to do, is to curate your social media a lot more closely. Go and look at your Pinterest boards and your Instagram, who you're following, what public figures are you looking at every day, and are they being truthful? Are we looking at someone who took 2 hours to get their selfie perfected and then to post it on Instagram as though their skin is plastic and there's like not a single like flaw in quotation marks on them? And what is that telling your brain every day versus who else is out there? And when I started doing that, it was it was like night and day, because you look at where I was then. I was looking at all the people on the perfect diets. I was following all of them, like the extreme paleo crowd, the extreme fruitarian crowd, the extreme, like, I was on every extreme and torturing myself. Versus when I look at who I'm following now, it's a lot of moderation stuff, people posting their image of themselves unfiltered. I'm looking at advertisers who are not allowing Photoshop to be in their advertisements anymore. And now just kind of following those stories. And it changes things in your brain. It rewires things so that you're able to see a different self because you've changed your story about what, like you said, I loved that. You've defined beauty in a different way, because that's all it is. Like, beauty is personal, and it can be defined by the person who is looking at themselves in the mirror.
Absolutely. I love that. See me, I'm following you. I'm following Lisa Swanson. So, and Anne, so that's who I follow. And I think for me, I was always very careful with my social media because, like you, my oldest child is a girl.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things that I struggled with as far as my self and image, confidence, and all that. I was confused about growing up, right? You talked about teenage years, the princess struggle. So that was totally me. And I wanted to save her from that. And I ended up with 4 girls. So I'm like,
There's
following.
your challenge.
So I've always been very careful about that. And that's the other thing is, we have to embrace our genetics, right? So that's like a battle, but something that I've learned how to embrace, because I grew up watching my mom's sisters, right? And their battle was with their thighs. And I always wondered, I was like, wow, that's amazing. But, when I was a little girl, like before teenage years, I always thought they were beautiful. I thought, like the Grecian woman was so voluptuous. And I was like, oh, wow, when I grow up, I'm going to look like that, But somehow when I became a teenager, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to look like that.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I have 6 kids, well, sometimes I look like that. It's okay. So I love that you work on the body image a lot. Now, as far as like the struggle with sugar, when you talk to people about that, how do you deal with that? Is it okay? Do you say like, you're going to fall off sometimes, or because that's, yeah.
Yeah, so I used to teach a sugar course, and I actually pulled back on that because it is such an individualized experience in that for me, I had the opportunity in life where I was in the right place, I had the right why, and I have kind of the personality that can be like, okay, take it all away and let's see what happens. And I could handle that until I went too extreme with it, and I didn't have someone guiding me and saying like, here's a red flag, here's like a behavior that's getting a little bit too extreme and there's some self-abuse happening. So if I had had that guidance during that, and this is where I like to be there with a client, whether we're meeting once a week, whether my clients send me voice messages on Voxer, so they're able to like check in with me at any point and be like, I just need to tell you I'm about to go to an ice cream shop with my mom, and these thoughts are going through my head. And it's more of, I don't think there's any one way for anyone. For some people, they thrive with barely any refined sugar in their life at all, and they're able to do that happily. For some people, that feeds a disordered behavior that was already there, especially if someone has an experience with purging or with binging and then purging, or extreme restriction. So it's very much an individualized solution, and what we do is deconstruct the beliefs about the food. So the food remains neutral. And so it's good or bad. It's whatever it is for where you are in that moment. So I gave an example to a client the other day. I'm like, if I were to gorge on marshmallows every single day, they're going to be bad for me, because I'm consuming them in high quantities. So it's building up. If I were to sit on my bed and have one marshmallow that I'm completely enjoying and savoring and like kind of melt on my tongue, whatever, like that actually might be closer to the good, in that it was a like nice experience. And then I got the satisfaction and I moved on. So there's a lot of factors that come into play besides the sugar itself. It's where we're dissatisfied in life, we'll often seek sugar. So we plan around life satisfaction while looking at the food. We never do one without the other. And also just remembering, if you're in a state of chronic stress, the way your body receives and digests food is going to be different versus when you're completely content and relaxed. So it's never just this or that. It's what's going on for you. Why is this something you're drawn to? And that's where we map out the solution.
I like that, because a lot of people, they will come to me and say, okay, so do I need to just cut out sugar? And I like what you just said, depending on if you're dealing with a lot of stress, it doesn't really matter what you're eating, right? Because your body is not going to get the benefit of that food, good or bad. If you're, but if you're eating sugar, obviously not a good choice, but it is what it is. So getting to, deconstructing what's going on is really where that's at. So, wow, I like that. That's powerful. What is another challenge that people deal with?
So where the work has really evolved, has been interesting, and this was a natural thing. It wasn't like I need to rebrand myself. It just kept happening in every session over and over. Is the real thing that's going on for most women who are concentrating or being told to concentrate on body, on perfection, on getting things right all the time, is really understanding and increasing self-awareness. So we have an entire course around that through the Desire Mastermind, which is like giving women permission to ask themselves, what is it that I really want? And one thing, kind of like a inside little thing that we were taught as coaches, is to ask ourselves when talking to clients is, what is life calling my client to do? Where is life calling my client? Like, that's a question going through my head when I'm hearing about something they struggled with, or something they're going through with food and body or relationship or money, because all of it comes back. So the real, I think, like the big struggle that women are really confronting, really more loudly than ever before, is, what do I want? Which, it shouldn't be such a controversial question, but it requires going through and like working through the shame of even asking that. If you're a mom, if you know, like, you've been on the track that your parents wanted you to be on toward the career they wanted, in relationship, if you're finding like, wow, this relationship was for all the wrong reasons, and we're really not a good fit for each other. And being able to find who you are and your voice in that, is a lot more controversial than it should be. But when you watch people get there, or when you get there yourself, it's amazing. So that's kind of, I'd say, been like the main focus this year, especially since we've been doing the Desire Mastermind all year long.
I like that. So yeah, that's very true. We are still in the 21st century trying to, justify women actually doing what they want and being who they want to be, and not
Mhm.
fitting into the status quo. Don't know why that is, but and
Working on it.
right, we're working on it. Work in progress. So, I'm seeing like you yourself have gone through a lot of transformation in the past year or so. And I don't know if you want to share with our listeners and viewers about how you think that may have affected your
Oh,
intentional rebranding.
sure. Yeah, so I was in a marriage with someone. We were just not good for each other. But it was like 6 years of trying to make it good. So it's like, how can we force this, instead of reconciling that we both met at a time in our life where we were really a lot more insecure, a lot less self-aware, and so it was quite obvious within like the first couple years. But I had a lot of those stories, which was, who am I to, assume that it can be different? Like, I had literally said I'm stuck to my mom on the phone, because we had a kid together, we had two children together, and the way that happened was not, is a whole different story. But the whole journey to really discovering like a lot of the pain that I was going through and suffering silently with. It was a lot of, it's funny, I was talking to a client, like, there's a lot of crying on the bathroom floor. And I was reading different books of other women who've gone through these life transformations, and they all cried on the bathroom floor. There's something about the bathroom floor and crying. It's like where you go to cry. And so there was a lot of that. There was a lot of just a lot of like tension, when this person would walk in the room, my whole body would become tense and closed off. I had to curate things that I said, just be very careful with my words. And I did a lot of like, what's wrong with me? So I went to counseling to see what's wrong with me. Why am I not happy? I should be grateful for what life gave me. Why am I not grateful enough? And it was a lot of that, like, why am I so selfish? And just things that were really in that story of, and then hearing it from people, you know, from family members who were just like, you have the perfect life. You should really just accept it and figure out why you're not accepting it. So I went to the counselor, and there was a lot of stuff like sexually very, very painful. My sexual like drive had gone way, way down. I just had no interest. I didn't want to be touched. I cringed. My whole body would lock up, and to the point where sex was very painful. And I didn't understand how much of a health issue that is for a woman. And I just, again, was like, what's wrong with me? I would go get pelvic floor exams. They're like, your pelvic floor is healthy. Are you sure there's not more going on here? I went to a holistic doctor who did like an internal massage. I don't know if you've ever had one. It's pretty bizarre, but she's like, yes, there's a lot of tension, but it's not because you have pelvic floor prolapse or anything like that. There's something else going on. And what was going on was, it's just, my life was so tense. I was clenching all the time. And I was really not living truthfully in that part of my life, in relationship and in sexuality. And so that was a process of a lot of conversations, a lot of pep talking from really great mentors, a lot of going through and talking to myself, just like, where did that story come from that you're selfish because something doesn't work for you? Like, what is that about? Why is it that we're taught we have to just be grateful for everything we were given instead of questioning whether it's a good fit? And that goes into the thing of like, where we're afraid to say no to things, where we feel guilty for saying no. Consent became a big topic for me because I wasn't fully consenting to things, but I wasn't fully also like saying a big, like loud, full body no to it, because I felt guilty for not fully consenting to it. Like I should, because I am the wife and it's my obligation. So just for me, it's story. So this last year has been a lot of looking at the stories I've learned and learning what is the story that I'm actually writing versus when am I letting someone else's narrative to come in. And you still have to catch that all the time. Like when you're finding yourself in a state of stress. And I sat down, one of my mentors right now is Lena West. I don't know if you've ever seen her online. She's really great. But we sat down for like 90 minutes and went through. And one thing came out of that talk was my red flag is resentment. So some people it's anger, some people it's frustration. If I'm starting to feel resentment building up, especially kind of in my center, that's a good sign that I might be putting myself out of alignment with what's right for me. I'm saying yes to things too much that maybe aren't a good fit. I'm saying no to things that I totally wanted to do but felt guilty about saying yes to them. And so that's kind of what I've learned is just, it's not, it wasn't a matter of fixing my sex drive. I didn't need a pill. I didn't need a counselor to give me a magic formula. What I needed were those mentors and those guides and myself, and to really go through and take a holistic whole life approach to this. There's never just one reason for why there's a pain point in your life. There's always a like whole life point of view to take in. And that's what I've learned to do in the last year. That's kind of why I feel like everyone's like, you're looking so happy or whatever, like your hair is so different. You seem so happy. And it's very true. So when I hear that, when I hear someone give a compliment that's like, wow, like your energy is this, I'm like, yes, okay, like I'm showing up the way I want to, versus when it's very much focused on like complimenting the things I'm doing, or very much about appearance. I appreciate them, but I don't resonate with those compliments as much as I do when someone can really comment to like, wow, like when you were here, it felt really good. It felt like you were in a good place. And I think that we can pick that up from each other pretty well.
That is like the best compliment. When you were here, it felt really good. Wow. You get compliments like that? That makes me
yes. I have pretty rad friends. And that's in the last year too. Like I would say I've let go of some people and they've let go of me because they don't agree with me. And I had said something in a post the other day, which was, I am okay with being rejected for the right reasons.
Oh,
And,
that's it. Yeah, that was.
and that is hard for me because I actually hate being rejected, and I hate confrontation, except I have to do it a lot. And that's another thing Lena had talked to me about, was like, that is one of your challenges here. And the more you do it truthfully and honestly, the less you'll find you'll have to do it, because those people who challenge you in those ways will stop showing up as much. And I have found that. And last night, I had something go on back home, and I really, really needed someone to go check on something for me. And like, do I have a friend who can do that? And I realized, like, I do. Like, it's nighttime, and she'll totally, like, no questions asked, do that for me, because that's the relationship. And it's a really, like, awesome way to realize, like, because I've become more of me, I've also connected more to others. And it's beautiful, loving, compassionate connection versus acquaintances or networking, and having a huge friend list, but not knowing if someone would show up for you in the middle of the night out of those like 2,000 people on your friend list. So yeah, that's the big thing that's come out for me this year is connection. It's amazing how connected you become when you start to take this new viewpoint on everything.
And reconnect with yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
For me, looking at you, like I met you through Perry Tim K, and I was watching your lives, the transition. Like I could see when you were going through your most pain, and I always wondered what is happening. Like your eyes were just like vacant, your
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, ghostly. Now you're like just like really glowing, and you look full. I know you're skinny, but you know what I mean? You look full. And everything, your eyes are like, dancing like little girl, so I see a big change in you. And
Thank you.
I'm happy to see you happy. That's what it's all about. And I'm sure you're serving your community. It seems like from the changes you have made with the Desire Mastermind, you're serving your
Mhm.
lot more. So with that, are there any other things that you have coming up? You still have openings in your Desire Mastermind, or?
Yeah, so what we're doing right now, we're in the middle of a live class, and we will be done in about a month. So we do probably about 4 times a year. We reopen for live, but it's always open for going through the actual lessons themselves. What we're doing, though, coming up for 2018. So this would be a great time to just, there's a free class on my site if anyone goes to empoweredqueen.com, just to kind of get a taste for what it's like, and see if they even like me. If they still like me after this interview, then that's great. The 2018, we're going to do it in a thematic way, because I find that comes up a lot. So one round, we're really going to focus on people who want to focus in on relationships that they're having. We're going to do a money focus. We're going to do a body love focus, just for anyone who's like, this is my life area that I'm really trying to find what's going on here and what do I really want. So yeah, that's the plan for next year. So I would just say the best place to go is the website, and then there's the free group, the Empowered Women group, and that the path to getting there is through empoweredqueen.com as well.
Okay, great. I'll put that link below this video and the radio. So for the radio stream, it'll probably be the end of November, but the YouTube will go up next week.
Cool.
So yeah. Yay. So what are the 3 takeaways you would like our viewers and listeners to get from our conversation today?
Number one, I'd say my biggest thing that I really love to see spread is the letting go of the fixing mentality when there's an issue, when you're feeling kind of like your example with the thighs, like take feedback from your body, receive feedback, be curious about it, and don't jump to fixing. Like I tried to find, what's wrong with me, so I'm going to go to all these places, versus where did this come from in the first place? So being curious about your pain often leads to the solution that you didn't expect.
Mm.
And yeah, love your belly. Seriously. Like bellies are amazing. I have a thing for stomachs and my partner totally makes fun of me, but I do. Like they're super comforting. I like to like cuddle on a stomach. I like to hug. And they're all beautiful. They're all amazing. Like my mom has this like beautiful, soft, larger belly, and my daughters just love to climb on it and lay on it and they rub her belly. I'm just like, that is what body love is. It's they're connecting through this place that people have created mean stories about, and now it's being shown all this unconditional love from two kids who don't give a like they don't care what your stomach looks like. And number three, yeah, I would just say give yourself permission, ask for what you want. You know, ask yourself all the time, what do I want? Is this right for me? And give yourself permission to say no or to say yes.
I love it. And just at that point, my 3-year-old is like, Mom.
I love it. I figured, yes, I totally get it.
Yeah. So that's lovely. I want to, thank you for your time. And I really like the fact, because, I work with moms. And so the belly thing is a big issue for women.
Mhm.
Um, that is not my area of struggle. Mine is definitely my thighs.
Okay.
but but it's a very good point, to yes. And I remember, I'm gonna just throw this in here. I remember seeing, have you seen it? There was a bunch of women, I think it was like January or February, and there was a photo shoot where women of different ages who have had children, and
Yeah, yeah,
right,
yeah,
the nude photos, and
yeah.
some had stretch marks, some had big bellies, and they were smiling and happy about it. They were very,
Mhm,
you know, but that's to your point about, just embracing the journey of our
mhm,
bodies as mothers.
mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
So thank you so much for being here today, and
Thank you.
listeners and viewers. Follow Sarah Wood at empoweredqueen.com and have an amazing day.